Good afternoon. I am League Member and Co-Chair of Voter Services, Deborah Scheiman, and I will be the moderator for County Commission District 1 panel today. There are two Democratic candidates for the County Commission District 1 seat that will appear on the primary ballot. They are Mary Alfred and Mike Byerly. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for joining us today. Alachua County Commissioners are elected for 4 years, a 4-year term with no term limits. Seats are elected by the county at large. All registered voters in Alachua County, regardless of their place of residence, may cast a ballot in all county commission races. At the time of the election, candidates must live in the district they would represent. The format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement. Following the opening statement, I will read questions prepared by the League of Women Voters. Each candidate will then have 1.5 minutes to answer. There will be 4 questions total. I will rotate the order in which the candidates respond. Candidates will be able to see the timer, who will indicate the remaining time at 30 seconds and stop. Please be sure when your time is up to stop, otherwise your microphone may be muted. We will now begin with the candidates' opening statements. You each have 1 minute, and we will begin in alphabetical order. Mary Alfred, your statement, please.
Hi, am I on? Hi, I'm Mary Alfred. I'm running for Alachua County Commission District 1. I'm a native Gainesvillian, born in Alachua General Hospital, a 6th-generation Floridian, and I have 4 generations of my family living here in Alachua County. I graduated from PK Young, and then later as a divorced young mother with 4 kids, I graduated from Santa Fe College and from the University of Florida with a degree in environmental engineering. I then went on and had a master's of engineering and worked in the fields of water wastewater and then in power production. About 15 years ago, I left those fields and started my own company. So I've been a small business owner and I've worked in the field of sustainability and in design. I've served on many local boards, and I have decided several years ago to work towards running Alachua County Commission. I'm running on a platform of not just the environment, but on sustainability. I'm running on a platform of taking care of our infrastructure, because the greenest roads and the greenest buildings are the ones we already have. And finally, I'm running on a platform of planning for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Byerly, your statement.
Good afternoon. Coming to you from Micanopy on this hot July day. I know how hot it is outside because we've been without air conditioner here for the last 4 days. So if you see me sweating, it's not nerves, it's just really hot, and there's a fan going in the background. I own a small business and operate it. My wife and daughter, a 6-year-old daughter, live here in Micanopy. I graduated from Buchholz High School here in Gainesville and attended University of Georgia, Clemson University, and University of Tennessee, where I studied zoology, journalism, and ecology, respectively. I'm a very outdoor person. I love being outside. Those are the issues that kind of got me into politics in the first place back in the late 90s. And I quickly learned that environmental protection is intimately connected to how we manage and grow as a community and how we take care of the economic and social needs of the people in our community. These things are deeply connected. My 20 years in office have taught me that you can't pull them apart. I love the work of county commissioners, the best job in the world. I hope to be able to do it for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our prepared questions. You will have 1.5 minutes to answer. We will start with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which candidates will respond to the questions. For our first questions, we'll begin with Mike Byerly. What do you think will be the 3 biggest challenges facing the county during the next 4 years? Oops, unmute.
The biggest challenges, I guess, in the short term, the pandemic, and I hope it will be the short term, but it may be with us for years, and how we adapt as a community is going to be front and center. There's another crisis kind of trundling along, even larger than the pandemic. It's just not quite as visible and apparent all the time because it's moving in slow motion, and that's climate change. We have to continue to try to prepare for the changes that are ahead, economic, physical, natural resource based, by trying to make our community a more resilient place to live so that we can adapt to changes that we know are coming. And finally, I think the economic fallout from the pandemic and some broader trends mean that we're going to have to be a little bit more, not a little bit more, a lot more conscientious about how we allocate our budget dollars. I don't think we're going to be able to continue to rely on a ever expanding tax base in the short-term future in the next 4 years. We're going to have to make some hard prioritized decisions in our budget about how we allocate resources. So I guess I'd name those as the top three.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Alford.
Yeah, I guess my answers are going to echo Mike's just a little bit. I agree that number one is going to be dealing with this pandemic and with the budget issues that are going to be following that. There's going to be hard decisions to make. This is not going to be a fun time to be a commissioner. Second, growth. We have 1,000 people a year moving to Alachua County, about a 1% growth per year. I know from my business that many of those people are coming here because of climate disruption. We need to plan for that. We need to plan for food security. We need to take into account not just protecting our environmentally sensitive lands, but also our food production lands. And my third big issue is, as Mike said, climate disruption. I was very disturbed to find out when I was invited to a forum early last year with UF, City of Gainesville, and Alachua County, that was the first time that they had all sat down in the room to try to deal with these issues together. That lack of coordination is showing now as we try to deal with this pandemic and the opening of UF. We need to all work together to prepare for the future and to plan appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question starts with Ms. Alford. What are your thoughts about funding healthcare services for low-income, uninsured residents, especially after the Choices money runs out?
Well, this is a question that's near and dear to my heart. About 11 years ago, I lost my son to leukemia. He had just started a job and was having symptoms, and he talked to me about them on his 24th birthday, that he had headaches and was tired. And I said, son, you need to go to the doctor. He goes, well, my insurance hasn't kicked in yet. And he waited too long. And sorry, I hope I don't get emotional. And he waited too long. And because when he finally did go to the emergency room, he was too far gone and lived for another year. And I hear about things like the Acorn Clinic shutting down. And I wonder how many other people like my son are out there. We need to carefully fund healthcare. We need to make it available to all our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Byerly, your response? Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. This is one of several issues like affordable housing that are very difficult to deal with at the local level. We're caught up in national and global trends, and local communities are usually left applying Band-Aids, trying to deal with the symptoms, and that's where local government, county government in particular, is right now. The Choices program has expired. We're still spending the funds that we accumulated, but it was a referendum which could be put back in front of the voters for renewal. I think it's done a lot of good in the community, and I would support putting it back in front of the voters. After that, the best we can do to approach the situation is to make sure that our budget reflects the community's values. We have invested significantly at the local level in trying to provide stopgap funding for people who are at the greatest needs. We have a community agency partnership nonprofit program that helps to provide some funding for people who kind of fall through the healthcare system cracks. I've supported funding priorities like that in my time in office, and will continue to if I'm reelected.
Thank you. For our next question, we begin with Mr. Byerly. How can the county provide more affordable housing for those least able to afford a mortgage or rent, especially those making less than $30,000 a year?
Well, as I just got through indicating, this is one of those issues that's very hard to deal with at the local level. Again, the trends and the reasons that folks are not able to afford to put a roof over their heads have a lot more to do with the national and global economy than anything that we do locally. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. We can, but we're in a position of basically treating symptoms rather than causing or curing the cause of the problem. We need national and state leadership. We can do some things, and we have. We've generously funded housing assistance for local folks, rent assistance, utility assistance. We can do things like that. We can require developers with proposed developments at a certain scale to provide smaller housing opportunities and a greater mix of housing opportunities within developments. But this is new housing. I have to emphasize that. And the folks who are struggling the most and closest to being in the streets are not people who are in the new housing market. So it's a difficult problem. We cannot solve the underlying economic problems that lead to affordable housing. It has a lot more to do with the unfair distribution of wealth and economic opportunity in this country. And we need strong state and federal leadership to deal with that problem.
Thank you. Ms. Alford, your response?
Yeah, this is actually something that I work on every single day with Habitat and with other folks. But what I see working in the areas of urban redevelopment and even in the city here in Gainesville, that we first need to keep people in the houses that they're already in. We need to have systems in place to identify those folks that are at risk of losing their homes and to have a system in place to try to keep them there. It is much, much cheaper to try to keep someone in a home than it is to try to rehome them. Second, our building department needs to be a little less conservative, in my opinion, in interpreting the Florida Building Code. We could be building smaller homes than we are now and still, in my opinion, meet the state requirements for what defines a home. This is something that's happened in other counties in Florida where they've allowed tiny houses on wheels to be, for instance, an accessory dwelling unit. We need to look at allowing single family homes to house, for instance, 4 or 5 adults sharing a home in a co-housing type of arrangement. There are many kinds of ways that we can look at creatively solving that problem to allow more and better housing. But it's, I also would like to look at things like revisiting the idea of a vacancy tax, which I know hasn't been allowed in the past, but I would like to petition the city to do that again. Thank you.
For our final question, we start with Mary Alford. Do you support the creation of a community solar program and low-income financing to help diversify access to residential solar?
This is another question that is near and dear to my heart. I am very much in favor of increasing the solar canopy in Gainesville and in Alachua County and our surrounding small towns. However, energy wasted is energy wasted. What low-income folks need more than they need solar panels is they need insulation, they need better windows, they need roofs that don't leak, they need safe spaces around them. So yes, while I am for those types of programs, what I am for first is fixing the leaks and making our houses more energy efficient. Like I said, energy wasted is energy wasted, whether you make it with a solar panel or with a plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Byerly, your response, please.
My answer to the question is yes. I wholeheartedly support anything that can move us towards a more renewable basis for our energy. I have solar panels on my home. They're cranking away right now on this hot July day. We lived off the grid for 5 years with a solar and battery system. We're now connected to the grid, but annually we still generate more energy than we consume and take from the grid. So I believe it, I've lived it, but I absolutely agree with Mary that first you start with energy efficiency. And that's the first thing we did when we were building our home here and getting ready to have solar. That's the low-hanging fruit. You have to caulk, you have to insulate, you have to do things that reduce your energy load, and you have to make some lifestyle changes, frankly, that bring down your demands on the system. And after we've attended to those things, I support any policy initiative at any level that will help move us towards a more renewable basis for our energy production portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you. This ends the panel for County Commission, District 1. Thank you to both candidates.